Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I want to share with you guys my thoughts on the new abilities that Paladin is going to be getting in Final Fantasy XIV's first expansion, Heavensward. Just like I took a break from the DPS jobs to talk about the White Mage in the last video, this video I'm going to take one of the tanks and go with the Paladin. I know a lot of people are waiting for the Warrior and Dark Knight videos, but Paladin to me was just a job I don't show enough love, and honestly I was really happy with the changes that came to the Paladin. So I wanted to do a video on this first. Now, please keep in mind that these are just my thoughts and opinions on the new abilities. Feel free to disagree with them and comment on them in the comment section of the video below. But without further ado, let's get right into the new Paladin abilities for the expansion. So the first thing I have to talk about with the new Paladin abilities is the inclusion of two new third-tier combo abilities off Savage Blade and Riot Blade. Now, Paladin does have a negative stigma right now of being a 1-2-3, 1-2-3 job, meaning your Rage of Halone combo is pretty much your bread and butter regardless of main tanking or off tanking. There is the weaving in of defensive cooldowns. You do have to worry about things like Spirits Within and Circle of Scorn for managing your damage. Fight or Flight and Bloodbath also being important common cooldown usages for the Paladin. But in those dull moments, the 1-2-3, 1-2-3, I know a lot of Paladins who are just bored of it, and that's why they went and played Warrior instead. Well, you diehard Paladins, and those of you who may have abandoned it in the past, will be glad to know that they are going to have some more options now. For one, they're going to have Gore Blade, which is a new combo off of Riot Blade, and this puts a damage over time effect on the boss. Additionally, you have Royal Authority, which is a damage-only ability that comes off of Savage Blade. So now it's not just going to be Rage of Halone, Rage of Halone, Rage of Halone. Generally, as a main tank, I imagine you'll want to establish enmity with your regular Rage of Halone combo, while also, of course, applying the strength reduction debuff, which is definitely a major help. It is a big part of their utility, that strength minus debuff. But in between that, when your enmity is already established, Gore Blade is going to be a more important part of it, along with, again, continue to weave in Spirits Within, Bloodbath, Fight or Flight, Circle of Scorn, all that stuff. And then if you have enough enmity to the point where you don't need to be using Rage of Halone, the Rage of Halone buff is already on, you now have this third option in Royal Authority to dish out a little bit more damage. And as an off tank, of course, you can still do all three of these things. Manage the strength reduction, manage the dot, and then go into your Royal Authority combo. I'm a big fan of these changes for Paladin because it just should make it a little bit more fun to play when you're not worrying about defensive cooldowns or offensive cooldowns to deal with. Overall, it's a good change, so let's move on to some of the utilities Paladin's going to be getting in the expansion. So the next ability we're going to be talking about for the Paladin is one that fits their current theme, that of a protector, and the ability's name is Divine Veil. Now this is an action that when the Paladin casts it on themselves, any heals they receive will actually grant a barrier effect to nearby party members. Now, to be clear, Eloquium says it is a magicked barrier, so I'm assuming Divine Veil acts similarly to that, granting a shield over their current health values to prevent oncoming damage. So the reason, the situation that they give to describe where this would be useful is something along the lines of turn 13, where you have the Giga Flares that come out, and there's a lot of mitigation that's usually involved with that. But now instead of relying on things like Stone Skin, you could just heal the tank and grant that barrier effect to nearby enemies. I'm curious if this is a Galvanize effect specifically, or if it's going to stack with Galvanize, because with the tools that Scholar is getting, on top of the already in-use ability of Sucker plus Astrologian's ability to erect barriers, I'm curious where this really fits, or if this is going to make it so that I guess not necessarily everyone has to stack up and they can continue to use their positionals and whatnot. I'm going to be curious seeing its actual implemented use and how it scales with the heal that you receive as a Paladin, because if it is a set amount of shield, which I doubt it will be, it would be simple enough for the Paladin to pop Divine Veil and cast a cure on themselves. But I sincerely doubt that that's going to be an effective means of reducing raid-wide damage, as opposed to something along the lines of taking consistent AoE damage, having Divine Veil up, and just making sure that while the tank is taking damage, you can all stand somewhat nearby and still receive this barrier effect without having to take your focus off of healing that tank, the Paladin, whether they be a main tank or an off tank. It just seems like it has places to be used. I'm just curious to see how it'll be implemented alongside all the other shields that are going to be available in the expansion. If it stacks with Galvanize, it'll be amazing. If it doesn't, I'm curious to see where it'll really fit in. Now, I'm not 100% sure of the name of this next ability, but it's an ability that guarantees your next attack will be a block. And the name I have here is Tron. Wow, that is the worst name I've heard for an ability. Didn't I say that in one of the earlier videos that I heard the worst name ever? I think Tron might be the worst name ever. And it does what it says. It guarantees that your next attack will be a block, or that the next attack that hits you will be a block, which will allow you to make use of shield swipe a little bit more as a DPS increase. Also, it makes it a reliable defensive cooldown, unlike Bulwark, which is really designed to be more of a I'm taking constant hits, or with the right shield, you are able to hit those 100% block rates with it. Either way you look at it, it's another defensive cooldown that also has some synergy with the shield swipe ability. No complaints, but to me, not really anything special. Now, what's unique to me is the way that this ability is shown to us in the benchmark video. Now, in the benchmark video, we can assume that the ability that the Paladin uses, where they surround themselves in a giant shield, is the Tron effect. However, it's used to block a fire breath attack. Now, I know the benchmarks usually shouldn't be taken literally, but when they showcase this ability like this, I can't help but think that this will be more than just your standard block physical attack. I feel like it will actually give you the ability to block magic attacks as well, especially because of the name Tron. Shell being a magical defense buff, part of the pro shell thing that we were talking about with White Mages in the last video. So, curious to see if it can block magical attacks, which would definitely make it a super reliable cooldown regardless of the boss that you are fighting. Now, the final ability Paladins might be getting, or final 1 or 2 abilities, is a little bit of a toss-up. So, in the job action video, we see 3 new abilities from the Paladin. We see Divine Veil, we see Royal Authority, we know Gore Blade exists, although it's not shown in the video, and we see one other ability. Now, Divine Veil could be one of 2 abilities shown in the video. It's either the one where they raise their shield in the air and, well, a veil appears, which is my guess of which one is Divine Veil, or it's an ability shown at the very end of the Paladin section, where they're actually shown casting a spell, which, unless you cross-class some Conjurer abilities, wasn't even possible before Heavensward. So, my guess is Divine Veil is the one where they raise their shield into the air, and this new ability is some sort of self-heal. This also matches the description of some of the translations that have come out, specifically from Slicer's translation over on the BG forums, which I have up right here, where it says that they are going to be getting recovery and support abilities before talking about Divine Veil. It would be really interesting if the Paladin had something to use their MP on when they are main tanking. It would definitely add a new dynamic, and also considering you'll be going into your Gore Blade combo more often, meaning that you will get the MP regeneration from Riot Blade, it would make sense to have a bigger MP dump in the sense of a self-heal. Also, it's something that just Paladins have lacked. Paladins have this MP pool that is pretty much only for switching between Sword and Shield Oath or making use of their cross-class abilities. It'd be nice to see them actually have this new self-heal ability, but we don't even know if that's what it is. That's the one thing that we're not really sure about. The only other change I can really talk about with the Paladin is a change to Shield Oath that I find very interesting. So Shield Oath up to this point has given you, the damage reduction, it's given you the additional enmity, that's all it's really been needed of it. However, in the expansion, Shield Oath, as well as Defiance for the Warrior and Grit for the Dark Knight, which are their tank stances, will be giving an accuracy buff. Now, this adds an interesting dynamic to being a main tank, because if you are a main tank, you now don't need as much accuracy to hit the boss, as long as you are in Shield Oath. I would like to add that I do know some tanks that once you're grossly overgeared for something, you tend to switch to Sword Oath, or even Hollowed Ground and switch to Sword Oath and get a few global cooldowns out when you know there's not going to be any big tank hits coming out soon. It's a dynamic of strategy that has been employed by a lot of people. So now, if you want to do that DPS in Sword Oath as a main tank in front of the boss, which has the highest accuracy requirement, you would need to stack some extra accuracy, and that accuracy would be completely wasted while you're in Shield Oath. So again, it adds a new dynamic to Paladins doing DPS as a main tank. But of course, as an off tank, when you're in Sword Oath, you'll still be needing some accuracy, just not really as much. At that point, you probably need about as much accuracy as you have in Shield Oath. We don't know how much accuracy it is. We don't know if it's a percentage. We don't know if it's a flat amount. Probably a percentage, so it scales with content. But it's another dynamic being added to the Paladin and all of the tanks, really. I am very impressed with the Paladin changes. I've been impressed with most of the changes, but there's still some jobs that I don't know how to feel about that we'll be talking about in a couple of future videos. So let me know what you think about these Paladin changes. Are you psyched to have more than 3 buttons to hit? And yes, that is a joke, but yeah, it's a joke. So are you thrilled to have more than 3 buttons to hit? Let me know how you feel about the new Paladin abilities in the comment section of the video below. Also, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one, which could be any job. Who knows? Maybe it'll be another tank. Maybe it'll be another healer. Maybe it'll be a DPS. Who knows? I'll just tell you it's not Machinist, Dark Knight, or what's the last one? Astrologian. There we go. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, take care.